Communication Station podcast, where today we're going to talk about model combinations and why it's important. Jeff, you've had some pretty extensive research in your over the 30 some years you've been in this industry for.
I'm old, but not quite that old, bro.
I love throwing that 30-year note when.
I have been in the business about as long as you've been alive, but there's that.
You started in 92?
95.
Born 93, so pretty close.
Yeah, not bad. It's pretty crazy. We're just watching some of the things, and all the. You've been with us a year and a couple of months. So all the crazy things that advisors do that are it sometimes boggle your mind. And we say it with love, but the reality is a lot of them just haven't had any sort of training on how to do some of these things, right? Or they don't have the tools. So, you got any good stories for crazy talk?
Well, I was gonna rewind it back to the question you asked the whole team earlier. Like, if you were on your own, what would you do to find a manager? And everyone said,
that's a good point.
I would just go to a filter and what's the best performance. But we all know that that's not the best way. That's just a fly on the wall. Hopefully it works. So I think Shelly's really good, puts an emphasis on learning that story. You're great at relying Potomac's strengths. I think that's one thing that stands out. So when we're talking about these things, what do you try to highlight in a manager?
Yeah, well, thanks for the kudos. Appreciate that. With portfolios, I think it's often very easy to get sucked into the land of just performance, but there's so much to the story of performance. And we also look at correlation, not from a numerical calculation standpoint, because correlation is difficult to do as a tactical manager, because one allocation one day might be different than the next.
Right.
But if you can look at the way the strategies behave with each other, I like to think they have their own personalities. So, in times during market volatility, how they maybe lack correlation in their movement, and then obviously in the recovery. So I think there's a lot underneath the story that is important to get in. And if you don't have the right tools, to your point, it's very hard to see that with just a performance filter.
Right. It's I find it interesting how many advisors put millions of dollars of client money with a strategist du jour and don't ever take the time to reach out, find out exactly how they got to those numbers. And I guess the way I look at it is like, if you were going to buy a business, you want to buy that revenue stream. But don't you want to know how they got the revenue stream? Is it a house of cards? Is it real? What's the process? Was it a couple of lucky trades? But they have no clue.
I'm pretty new in this industry, and this is probably the first full market cycle I really am experiencing. So that's one thing you brought to my attention early on. Like, hey, while the going's good, it's great. But when shit hits a fan, like I was in 2008, I was in 8th grade. I didn't really comprehend that.
Oh, God. So, I'm going to puke. I'm going to throw up right now.
So this is my first full market cycle, so really doing that.
Oh, just for the record. Just right there. Okay, there we got that one.
I just got to throw that, still a young guy. Still under 30 for next year, so I got to pull that while I got it. But that's exactly why you need to do that research, to see how things are going to, hold up during tough times.
Well, and not just hold up, but also when might it struggle? It's
absolutely.
Not, you don't always want to look at just what's it doing in the good times, because generally, if it's good times, most portfolios are going to be benefiting from it. But what happens in the bad times? And also, when might it disconnect?
Bingo. The thing I see often is sometimes there'll be like this big movement to tactical management. Like, oh, well, I've got to get all tactical managers now. And what they don't take the time to look is that each of the, let's say, 3 strategists might be good by themselves, but if they all struggle at the same time, well, guess what? Your tactical risk management is all gonna
in the shitter. Absolutely.
Thank you. That's pretty good assignment there.
That's one thing that we don't shy away from, is the bad times. We want to embrace them. We want to not bury our heads in the sand. Manish is always telling us, this is the time you need to connect with advisors. Make sure they understand our process. Yeah. So when you're evaluating other managers, like, what is the leash you give them? Like, if they go through a bad quarter, 2 bad quarters, when do you start to keep an eye on them?
Yeah, it's there's a couple of things. I mean, it's not necessarily a specific time frame. I think that's first. It's more about, and I've said this for years, I call it expectational investing. Knowing when they do well, when they struggle, and making sure that, okay, maybe they are down or they're not doing quite look, we all want accounts to go up. But if the manager is struggling and it's a period when they normally would do really well, like, that's a question. What nobody ever looks at is when a manager is kicking ass and taking names, and it's a period when they should be struggling.
Yeah.
Like, wait a second here.
But there's
All
more to it.
all managers will have to make some tweaks to their process occasionally. There's a lot of reasons for that. We've talked about that before. But if you don't understand that something has changed and what is that, you might be putting your clients in more risk than what you expected. And you had a good reference to blood pressure on the risk range, right, with Max Drawdown in our other podcast. And so that number comes into play in that, hey, if you've got a 30, a max drawdown of 30 is the target. That's what that particular strategy has dealt with. And it's down 10 or 12 or 15 or even 20 or even 25. Hey, well, that's expected, right? As long as it's happening when you would expect it to happen.
Absolutely.
So
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So you started in this industry 25 years, let's call it what it is.
He's making you younger
Yeah,
as
I
we
know.
go
I'm trying-
along.
hold on, is my hair going to come back? Let's check.
Trying to get this on the good side now. But yeah, I mean, we used to throw this acronym all over the place. But Firm CPR, when did you come up with that?
Oh, crap. About 2003, 2004.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually 2003.
What'd you do before that? Just kind of what everyone else did?
That's actually when I started doing due diligence.
Oh, okay.
I was in the industry, but I was doing other things.
Trademark
And
that,
so,
by the way.
I should. Anyway, Firm CPR, Firm Structure
Acronyms
Communication
by
Program.
Potomac, right?
What's that?
Acronyms by Potomac.
That's a new one. We got to talk to Christopher about that. Acronyms by Potomac. But at that point, I became responsible for doing diligence, and I had to come up with something to be able to easily communicate what it was that we were looking at. And so, for the record, Firm CPR is Firm Structure Communication Program Design and Returns. Returns are last for a reason.
Absolutely.
And you got to understand what a company is, how they're made up, all those kinds of things. And that's, again, I share this with advisors. Like, I don't care if you use us or not, but have a process. Have a process that you can do, follow, manage. It's no different when we talk about investments. If you're going to be the investment manager, have a process to do that. Don't just play the gut game.
I've seen so much clutter, and I'll call it clutter in portfolio allocations because there's not a process in place, and they just kind of, the next wholesaler that walks through the door, they've got a good story,
Who's
they
ever
like
got a
the
bagel in
person.
their hand? Absolutely. I love
A bagel index. There we go.
I used to love wholesalers back when I worked at an advisor's office. It's like, yeah, sign me up. I'll take 2 hours. You can just talk and talk. I'll eat. I'll drink your coffee. It was awesome. So,
And that's part of why we're not wholesalers. We're an education team because we know that song and dance. But, at the same time, I think it's important because if you don't have the process, your portfolio allocations get cluttered. And then how on earth are you monitoring all of these different strategies? I asked you earlier today, I was looking at a portfolio combination going, what am I missing? This looks, really in line. It had good drawdown. It had good return for the drawdown. And so I think even just having someone to try to poke holes in it, what am I missing, is helpful.
I think our team does that great. We're always looking for feedback. I can call Jeff out. He doesn't care. I can call Shelly out. We do it with a smile, a little banter here and there.
they're only 3 times a week, and then after that, you're banned.
I know.
You've hit your limit.
I usually hit that on Mondays, so I'm struggling. So
Monday meeting, we're done, and you're outie.
yeah, those AMs come.
Well, I opened this with one of the crazy things that we've seen. I'm going to throw another one out there. When you have a portfolio that's going to have potentially a distribution, right? If you just think about mutual fund distributions, we've seen advisors that try and time the timer. Right? Oh, can I get my non-qualified account out before a distribution, and then miss 5-7% return, whatever the return might be? Who knows, right? But it's like, why are you doing this, right? And I think again, it goes back to have a process and understand what your objective is, what kind of an account it is.
More important to that, sticking to your process, being disciplined.
Yeah. If you do it right, you don't have to change anything. That's the whole point of making business simple.
I always go to be proactive and not reactive. I try to do that every day of my life, but I'm a pretty reactive person. So I think, I like to preach that. So maybe one day I'll listen to myself.
All right, you guys have any crazy experiences that you want to share?
First off, this Denver trip. Like, it's been awesome seeing you guys in person.
I was hoping that might have hit the mark.
Yeah, it was a great time so far. I'm looking forward to doing more of these. Got our conference coming up in September. Finally meet some of the advisors, so that's gonna be awesome.
Got a few client events coming up over this summer that I'm really excited to travel up with. Just all good things. I was saying that it's been 10 years since Jeff and I have seen each other in person, just from our former roles and life. And it was just like so great to meet all the team. They're in the background over there.
Finally found out Shelly is 5'1", not 5 foot.
I know.
But,
I guess
still,
I lied. I shorted myself.
That was still
no
a
pun
surprise.
intended.
But
Fun good times.
You guys got anything else to add?
No, man. I'm excited that we're here together because again we think about this environment. It's just nice to be able to actually sit down and record something of course we've got 47 microphones here, but record something in a little different venue. So it's fun.
It's funny, we pound our chest all day that remote is awesome, but we get here like, man, it's great.
It is.
But Monday morning when I get back in my office cubicle or what I'm in like
your corner.
In my in-laws' basements. That's a funny story.
Yeah,
but,
that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, I'll be able to take a deep breath and be like, weekend was wild. Happy to be back. So
no commutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially Atlanta, live in Georgia. We got to stop talking because we keep on just saying we're going to wrap it up, but that's great.
All right. Well, on that note, wrap it up. High fives. Let's keep rocking it.
Jeff, give us another choo-choo, baby.
A choo-choo? Oh, God.
Team one. Ready?
No, yeah.
Count down. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Choo-choo!